The metallic hallways of the Galactic Alliance mothership echoed with the steady footsteps of Jack Miller as he walked beside Captain Tom. After 3 years of Earth joining the Alliance, humans were still a novelty among the stars. Jack adjusted his simple blue diplomatic uniform, trying to ignore the stares from the alien crew members they passed. "Remember," Captain Tom whispered, his gray hair catching the bright overhead lights, "General Crix requested you specifically. Keep your cool, no matter what he says." Jack nodded. At 32, he wasn't the most experienced diplomat Earth had, but his record of staying calm under pressure had caught the attention of both human and alien leaders. They needed that calmness now more than ever. The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss. General Crix stood by the main viewport, his tall, scaled form blocking out the stars behind him. His armor gleamed with dozens of battle medals, and his 4 eyes narrowed as he spotted the humans entering. "So," Crix's voice rumbled through the room, "they sent me another soft-skinned diplomat." He turned fully, towering over Jack by at least 2 feet. "Tell me, human, how does your species survive being so fragile?" Several bridge officers tried to hide their smirks. They'd seen this before, their general testing new species, pushing them until they broke. 3 other human diplomats had already requested transfers after meeting Crix. Jack smiled politely. "The same way a river survives meeting a mountain, General. We flow around obstacles, and given enough time, we can shape even the hardest stone." A moment of silence fell over the bridge. One of the alien officers dropped a datapad. Crix's upper eyes blinked slowly. "Interesting answer. But words are wind. Actions are what matter." He walked closer, his footsteps heavy against the metal floor. "Your species has been granted too much, too quickly. 3 years ago, you were still playing with primitive rocket ships. Now you sit at the Alliance Council." "We're grateful for the opportunity to learn and contribute," Jack replied, maintaining eye contact despite the general's intimidating presence. "Contribute?" Crix laughed, a harsh sound that made several junior officers flinch. "What can you contribute? Your weapons are toys. Your ships are built from our scraps. Your only colony is a small base on your own moon." Jack's smile didn't waver. "Yet here I am, standing on your bridge, representing a species that went from horse-drawn carriages to starships in less than 2 centuries. Imagine what we'll achieve in the next 100 years." The general's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of either anger or interest. Jack wasn't quite sure which. He'd studied alien biology, but Crix's species was notoriously hard to read. "You'll be stationed here for the next 6 months," Crix announced suddenly. "Every day, you'll observe our military operations. Every day, I'll show you just how far behind humanity really is." His voice dropped to a threatening growl. "Every day, you'll learn your place in the galaxy." Instead of backing down, Jack gave a small bow. "I look forward to learning from your experience, General. Knowledge, after all, is humanity's favorite weapon." As Jack and Captain Tom left the bridge, whispers followed them. No one had ever responded to the general's threats with such calm determination before. Most species either showed fear or anger, emotions Crix knew how to exploit. "That went better than expected," Tom said once they were out of earshot. Jack let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Did you see the other officers' reactions? They're not all as hostile as their general." "Don't get too confident. Crix didn't earn his reputation by being predictable. He's testing you, and this was just the beginning." Jack nodded, his expression serious. "I know, but he's testing all of humanity through me. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's beating impossible odds." As they walked toward Jack's new quarters, neither man noticed the small maintenance drone that followed them, its camera feeding directly to General Crix's private terminal. The general watched the footage with all 4 eyes, his scales shifting through colors as he planned his next move. The humans' unexpected responses had caught his attention. Perhaps it was time to show them what real power looked like. Time to introduce them to the monster. 2 weeks passed aboard the mothership, each day filled with General Crix's attempts to prove human inferiority. Today was different. Instead of the usual military demonstrations, Crix ordered Jack to follow him to a restricted section of the ship. "Tell me, human," Crix said as they walked through dimly lit corridors, "what do you know about the Dark Sector Wars?" Jack matched the general's long strides. 3 civilizations disappeared there about 500 years ago. The Alliance classified all records of the incident. Disappeared. Crix's scales rippled with amusement. No, they were destroyed. Completely wiped out. And we caught what did it. They stopped at a massive door marked with warning symbols in 12 different languages. 4 armed guards stood at attention, their weapons humming with energy. General Crix pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door slowly opened with a heavy groan. Cold air rushed out, carrying a strange smell, like ozone and wet fur mixed together. Jack's skin prickled as they entered a vast chamber filled with monitoring equipment. In the center stood a containment field, its blue energy walls stretching from floor to ceiling. "Welcome to Vault Zero," Crix announced proudly, "our most secure facility outside of the Alliance capital." Jack stepped closer to the containment field, squinting through its shimmer. Something moved in the shadows inside. Something big. "Most species run away at this point," Crix commented, watching Jack carefully. "Their instincts tell them to flee before they even see it clearly." But Jack didn't run. His heart was racing, yes, but his curiosity was stronger. He took another step forward, and that's when he saw it. The creature was larger than a bear, with 6 legs and thick purple fur. Its head housed 3 pairs of eyes that glowed softly in the dark. As it noticed Jack, it moved closer to the field's edge. "The most dangerous biological weapon ever discovered," Crix said. "It hunts by sensing fear and negative emotions. The more its prey panics, the more aggressive it becomes. Those civilizations in the Dark Sector, they fought it with everything they had. Their fear and anger just made it stronger." Jack watched as the creature tilted its head, studying him with its multiple eyes. His handheld scanner quietly analyzed its bio-readings. "Fascinating," Jack muttered, looking at the data. "But something's not right here." "What?" Crix demanded. "These readings, they don't match what you're describing. The creature's brain structure shows highly developed empathy centers. And these stress hormones." Jack paused, double-checking his readings. "It's not aggressive right now. It's scared." Crix's scales darkened. "Nonsense. This monster destroyed entire worlds." "Did it?" Jack asked quietly. "Or was that just what everyone assumed? Look at its behavior. It's not trying to break free. It's not showing any signs of aggression. It's responding to our emotions." The creature had pressed closer to Jack's side of the field, making a soft, rumbling sound that reminded him of a cat's purr. "Enough," Crix snapped. "I didn't bring you here for your amateur analysis. I brought you here so you'd understand what real power looks like. This creature is our ultimate weapon. And soon, you'll see it in action." Jack turned away from the containment field reluctantly. "General, with all respect, I think you're misunderstanding what you have here. This isn't a weapon. It's something else entirely." "You understand nothing," Crix growled. "But you will. Very soon, you'll see exactly what this monster can do. And when you do, all your human confidence will crumble." As they left the vault, Jack glanced back one last time. The creature had pressed all 6 of its legs against the energy field, watching him leave. Its eyes seemed to hold not malice, but something that looked surprisingly like hope. In his quarters later, Jack reviewed his scanner data again. The creature's biochemistry, its brain structure, its behavior, none of it matched the profile of a mindless killing machine. But if he was right about what it really was, why had nobody figured it out before? He had a feeling he'd find out soon, whether he wanted to or not. 3 days after Jack's visit to Vault Zero, alarms blared throughout the mothership. Emergency lights flashed red as crew members rushed through the corridors. Jack ran to the bridge, where he found General Crix arguing with several Alliance officials on the main screen. "You can't be serious," one official shouted. "The Drachnid ships crossed into our space without permission." "They claimed it was a navigation error," another added. "We should attempt diplomacy." Crix's scales turned almost black with rage. "They have 20 warships aimed at this sector's main colony. This is no error." Jack studied the tactical display. The Drachnid fleet had positioned themselves perfectly to strike at the colony's weakest points. Their navigation error looked more like an invasion plan. "Perhaps I could try talking to them," Jack offered. "Earth has no history with the Drachnids. A neutral party might." Silence. Crix spun around, his eyes blazing. "I've had enough of human diplomacy. It's time to show everyone what real power looks like." He pressed a button on his command console. "Release the monster." The bridge crew gasped. Jack's heart raced as he realized what was happening. "General, wait." But Crix was already entering his authorization codes. On the tactical display, a small dot emerged from the mothership's hull, a transport pod carrying the creature from Vault 0. "Watch closely, human," Crix said, his voice filled with cruel satisfaction. "Watch what true strength does to those who threaten us." The pod approached the space between the two fleets. Jack's mind raced. The creature's bio readings, its behavior in the vault, none of it matched what was about to happen. The pod's doors opened. Everyone on the bridge held their breath, waiting for the destruction to begin. Crix stood tall, ready to witness his ultimate weapon at work. Instead, the purple-furred creature floated peacefully in space, its 6 legs moving gracefully as it oriented itself. Its multiple eyes took in the ships around it, glowing softly in the starlight. "What's wrong with it?" Crix demanded. "Why isn't it attacking?" Jack stepped forward, checking his scanner. "Because it doesn't want to attack, General. It never did." The creature began moving, not toward the Drachnid fleet, but back toward the mothership. As it got closer, the bridge crew could see it clearly through the main viewport. Its fur sparkled with tiny lights, like stars caught in purple silk. "This is impossible," Crix muttered. "The records, the dark sector." Jack walked to the viewport, watching as the creature approached. "You said it responds to fear and negative emotions. But what if that's not to hunt? What if it's trying to help?" The creature pressed itself against the viewport, looking directly at Jack. Its eyes weren't filled with rage or hunger, but with intelligence and curiosity. It made a gentle tapping sound against the reinforced glass. "Look at how beautiful it is," Jack said softly. "This isn't a monster. This is an incredible being that we've completely misunderstood." The Drachnid ships, instead of attacking, began backing away. Their sensors must have picked up something from the creature that their crews found deeply unsettling. "Beautiful," Crix sputtered. "It's a weapon. A killer. A perfectly evolved, empathic creature," Jack interrupted, checking his scanner again. "It's not feeding on fear. It's trying to calm it. Those lights in its fur, they're releasing chemicals designed to reduce stress and aggression." The creature purred, the sound somehow carrying through the ship's hull. Several bridge crew members stepped closer, their fear giving way to wonder. "I think," Jack said, smiling at the creature, "it's time we rethink everything we thought we knew about our friend here." The creature pressed one paw against the viewport, directly opposite Jack's hand. In that moment, despite Crix's spluttering protests and the chaos of the situation, Jack knew he'd just made a very unusual, very special new friend. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he was already thinking of names for humanity's first alien pet. After the incident with the Drachnid fleet, everything changed aboard the mothership. The creature, which Jack had started calling Buddy, was given a large observation room instead of the vault. General Crix had objected, but the Alliance Council was too interested in Jack's discoveries to listen. "Remarkable," said Dr. Reed, the human scientist who'd been called in to study Buddy. "Its entire biology is built around emotional awareness and response." Jack sat cross-legged on the floor while Buddy lounged nearby, all 6 legs sprawled out comfortably. The creature's purple fur rippled with gentle waves of bioluminescence, creating patterns that changed with its mood. "Watch this," Jack said. He focused on feeling happy, thinking about peaceful moments back on Earth. Buddy's fur lit up with bright, star-like dots, and the room filled with a pleasant scent like summer flowers. "It's not just responding to emotions," Dr. Reed noted, checking her instruments. "It's actively trying to enhance positive ones and calm negative ones. That's why those ancient records were so wrong." Buddy rolled over, showing its belly like a giant cat asking for scratches. Jack laughed and obliged, making the creature purr loudly enough to vibrate the floor. "So what really happened in the dark sector?" Jack asked, scratching behind one of Buddy's ear tufts. Dr. Reed pulled up some old star charts. "We found evidence that Buddy's species didn't destroy those civilizations. They were trying to protect them. There was something else out there, something that caused massive fear and panic. These creatures were engineered by an ancient race to be guardians, emotional support beings that could defend against fear itself." As if understanding, Buddy made a soft whining sound and pressed closer to Jack. The more scared people became, Jack realized, the harder these creatures tried to help them. But nobody understood what they were doing. Exactly. The chaos and fear of those wars would have driven them to desperately try calming everyone down. But people saw these large creatures appearing whenever there was trouble and assumed they were causing it. The door slid open and General Crix walked in. Immediately, Buddy's fur began glowing with calm, soothing patterns. The general's aggressive stance softened slightly, though he tried to fight it. "The council wants a full report," Crix growled, but his voice lacked its usual edge. It was hard to stay angry with Buddy actively working to spread peace. "Of course," Jack said, standing up. "But first, would you like to meet Buddy properly? No weapons, no containment fields. Just say hello." Crix's scales shifted colors rapidly. "That thing is still dangerous." "Actually," Jack smiled, "Buddy is just doing its job, making sure everyone stays calm and happy. The only difference is, now we understand how to help." Slowly, cautiously, Crix stepped closer. Buddy watched him with all 6 eyes, fur glowing softly. The creature's tail swished back and forth in a friendly way. "It doesn't look like a monster anymore," Crix admitted reluctantly. "It never was one," Jack said. "Sometimes the scariest things are just the ones we don't understand yet." Buddy stretched out one paw toward Crix, inviting contact. After a long moment, the general reached out and touched the soft fur. His scales immediately shifted to a more relaxed color. "This changes everything," Dr. Reed said, watching the interaction. "Think of how these creatures could help with conflict resolution, trauma therapy, peaceful negotiations." Jack nodded, feeling proud of both Buddy and the progress they'd made. In just a few days, they'd turned a feared monster into a bridge between species. Fear had given way to understanding, and understanding had led to friendship. Buddy purred contentedly, surrounded by the positive emotions it had helped create. The creature that had once been locked in a vault was now teaching some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy a lesson about peace, empathy, and the importance of looking beyond appearances. And this was just the beginning. A month after Buddy's release, the mothership's archives room buzzed with activity. Ancient data crystals glowed softly as Jack, Dr. Reed, and even General Crix worked to uncover the truth about Buddy's species. The creature itself lay curled up in the corner, watching them with interested eyes. "Look at this," Dr. Reed said, pointing to a holographic display. "These creatures weren't just found in the dark sector. They were created there by the Guardians." "The Guardians?" Jack looked up from his own research. "You mean the ancient civilization that disappeared 50,000 years ago?" Buddy's ears perked up at the mention of the Guardians. Its fur sparkled with patterns that looked almost like writing. "They were master genetic engineers," Crix added, his voice carrying unusual respect. "They built wonders we still can't understand." But we never knew they made these. These. Emotional support beings, Jack suggested, or ESBs for short. Dr. Reed nodded excitedly. The Guardians created them to protect younger civilizations. These creatures were supposed to help developing species deal with fear, conflict, and emotional trauma. They're literally living peacekeepers. As if to demonstrate, Buddy walked over and pressed against Crick's side. The general's scales, which had darkened with frustration over the research, slowly shifted back to a calmer color. That's why they appeared during conflicts, Jack realized. They were trying to prevent wars by calming everyone down. But in the dark sector, something went wrong. Cricks finished. The fear and panic were too much. The ESBs couldn't stop it. Buddy made a sad whining sound. Its fur dimmed, showing dark swirls that looked like galaxies in morning. Jack walked over and hugged the creature. Hey, it's okay. You did your best. Nobody understood what you were trying to do. The archive computer beeped, displaying new information. Dr. Reed gasped as she read it. The dark sector civilizations weren't destroyed by the ESBs, she said. They were attacked by something else. Something that fed on fear and conflict. The exact opposite of what Buddy does. The ESBs tried to protect them. Cricks said slowly, his scales showing shock. They weren't the monsters. They were fighting the real monsters. Buddy pressed closer to Jack, its fur now showing patterns of determined brightness against the dark swirls. Even thousands of years later, it still wanted to protect others. General, Jack said carefully, I think it's time we told the Alliance Council everything. These creatures aren't weapons. They're probably the greatest peacekeeping force the galaxy has ever known. For once, Cricks didn't argue. He watched as Buddy moved around the room, systematically comforting each person present. The creature's original purpose was clear now. It was designed to bring peace, understanding, and emotional stability to young species that might otherwise destroy themselves. The council session is in 1 hour, Cricks said finally. Bring your evidence. And bring your friend. As they prepared to leave, Jack noticed something remarkable. The patterns in Buddy's fur had changed again, but this time they exactly matched the ancient Guardian writing they'd found in the archives. Dr. Reed, he called out, I think Buddy's trying to tell us something. The scientist rushed over with her scanner. These patterns, they're not random. The Guardians must have encoded information directly into their creation's DNA. Buddy isn't just carrying their legacy. It's a living library of their knowledge. The creature purred loudly, clearly happy that they finally understood. After thousands of years of being misunderstood, hunted, and feared, Buddy's true purpose was finally coming to light. General Cricks stood straighter, his scales showing determination. Then we have even more reason to protect these beings. The Guardians left us not just a gift, but a responsibility. Jack smiled, scratching Buddy behind the ears. Good thing humans are pretty good at making friends with unusual creatures. The creature's happy purr echoed through the archive room, a sound of hope for a more peaceful future. The mothership's main recreation area had changed dramatically over the past 2 months. Where once off-duty crew members sat in species-segregated groups, now they gathered together around Buddy, who had become the heart of the ship's social life. Look at this, Jack said to Captain Tom, pointing to a scene that would have been impossible 3 months ago. A group of junior officers from 5 different species sat together, sharing stories and laughing while Buddy lay stretched out among them, fur glowing with happy patterns. Hard to believe that's the same monster the general wanted to use as a weapon, Tom replied, shaking his head with a smile. Jack watched as Buddy got up and walked over to a young crew member sitting alone in the corner. The alien officer had just received news about a family emergency back home. Buddy's fur shifted to gentle, comforting patterns as it sat beside the officer, offering silent support. That's the 3rd time this week Buddy has spotted someone in emotional distress before anyone else noticed, Dr. Reed said, joining them with her ever-present scanner. The emotional awareness of these creatures is extraordinary. Suddenly, the ship's alert system activated. Red lights flashed, but before panic could spread, Buddy was already moving. The creature's fur lit up with calming patterns, and a soothing scent filled the air. General Crick's voice came over the intercom. All crew to battle stations. Unidentified vessels approaching. The crew moved quickly but remained remarkably calm, thanks to Buddy's influence. Jack and Dr. Reed followed the creature to the bridge, where General Cricks stood studying the tactical display. 3 ships, Cricks reported. No response to communications. They're using stealth technology we've never seen before. Buddy walked straight to the tactical display, its fur suddenly showing complex patterns. Dr. Reed's scanner beeped urgently. These patterns, she gasped. They match the Guardian warning symbols we found in the archives. Buddy recognizes these ships. The creature's fur now showed clear signs of concern, but not fear. It pressed a paw against the display, and its fur began projecting detailed technical information about the approaching vessels. Incredible, Crick said, his scales shifting with excitement. The Guardians must have encoded information about all known threats into the ESB's genetic memory. Buddy is showing us their weaknesses. Using the creature's guidance, they quickly identified gaps in the mysterious ship's stealth systems. When the vessels attacked, the mothership was ready. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. Remind me to never doubt your pet again, Cricks told Jack as the enemy ships retreated. His scales showed genuine respect, both for Buddy and for human intuition. Later that day, as news of the incident spread through the Alliance, Jack received a priority message from Earth. The Alliance Council had made a historic decision. Humanity would be granted primary guardianship of the ESB program. They're impressed by how quickly humans bonded with Buddy, Dr. Reed explained. Our capacity for emotional connection makes us ideal partners for these creatures. In the recreation area, crew members were celebrating the victory. Buddy moved among them, its fur creating beautiful patterns that seemed to dance with the ship's lights. Even the most hardened veterans found themselves smiling. You know what the best part is? Jack said to Tom. Every species on this ship has learned something. The tough warriors learned about emotional support. The logical thinkers learned about intuition, and everyone learned not to judge by appearances. Buddy returned to Jack's side, purring loudly. Its fur showed a new pattern, one that looked remarkably like the Earth symbol mixed with ancient Guardian script. I think, Dr. Reed said, checking her scanner one last time. Buddy's trying to tell us we were worth waiting for. The Guardians created these beings to help young species grow, and now, after thousands of years, they've finally found their perfect partners. The creature's happy purrs seemed to agree. On the bridge, General Cricks watched through the security feeds, his scales showing a color that his species reserved for moments of profound change. The monster that wasn't a monster had changed everything. 6 months after Buddy's release, the mothership's docking bay was filled with excitement. 3 more ESBs had been found and brought aboard, their purple fur glowing with joy as they reunited with Buddy. They really are like big space puppies, Jack said, watching the creatures play together. Their fur created synchronized light shows that filled the bay with dancing colors. General Cricks stood nearby, his scales showing the calm blue shade that had become more common since Buddy's influence. The search teams have located 6 more ESB habitats. It seems they've been waiting, hidden throughout the galaxy, for someone to finally understand them. Dr. Reed's research team worked nearby, preparing transport pods for Earth's new ESB sanctuary. The planet had been chosen as the primary rehabilitation center for these remarkable creatures. Already, thousands of humans had volunteered to help. The Guardian archives were right, Dr. Reed said, checking her latest readings. These beings were designed to grow and adapt with their companion species. Look at how their fur patterns have started incorporating human writing alongside the Guardian scripts. One of the younger ESBs bounded over to a group of nervous transport crew members. Within minutes, their anxiety about handling the strange creatures had melted away under the influence of the ESB's calming presence. "Still hard to believe I once called them monsters," Crix admitted, watching the scene. "Though I suppose fear often makes monsters of things we don't understand." Jack smiled. "That's why the Guardians created them. They knew developing species would need help overcoming their fears. They just didn't expect it to take so long for someone to figure it out." Buddy approached them, leading its companions. The creature's fur displayed a complex message that Dr. Reed quickly translated from her scanner. "It's thanking us," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "And it's asking permission to share more Guardian knowledge. Apparently, these creatures carry information about more than just defense and emotional support. They know the location of Guardian technology that could help unite the galaxy." Crix's scales shifted to a color of amazement. "All this time, we were looking for Guardian relics, when their greatest legacy was right here, waiting for someone to simply show it kindness." The ship's intercom crackled. "Alliance Council shuttle approaching. All personnel prepare for diplomatic reception." As the crew rushed to prepare, Jack knelt beside Buddy. "Ready to meet your new human friends." The creature responded by touching its forehead to Jack's, sharing a feeling of pure joy and hope. The council members were greeted by an impressive sight. 4 ESBs, their fur glowing in perfectly synchronized patterns, creating a display of welcome that combined Guardian symbols with Alliance protocols. The effect was breathtaking. "Earth has prepared 1,000 acres of sanctuary space," Jack reported to the council, "with room to expand as we find more ESBs. Every major Earth university has opened xenobiology and empathic communication departments. We're ready to help these beings fulfill their original purpose." "And the military applications?" one council member asked, looking at General Crix. The general's scales showed firm conviction. "These creatures aren't weapons. They're guardians, teachers, and friends. Earth understands this better than anyone. That's why they should lead this project." Buddy and its companions demonstrated their abilities, calming tensions and fostering understanding among the gathered diplomats. The council members found themselves experiencing the same sense of wonder that had transformed the mothership's crew. Then it settled, the council leader announced. "Earth will lead the ESB rehabilitation program. Let this be the beginning of a new era of peace and understanding in the galaxy." As the proceedings concluded, Jack watched Buddy playing with both its own kind and various crew members. The creature that had once been feared as a monster had become a symbol of hope, a bridge between species, and a reminder that sometimes the scariest things just need a little love to reveal their true nature. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy hadn't been technology or military might. It had been the simple ability to look at a supposed monster and see a friend instead. The real adventure was just beginning.